All right, welcome to the Golf Podcast Live. We're live from Mississauga at Mindshare Workspace. With me, as always, is my co-host, Michael Bleackley in Vancouver. He's over at the ECS agency. Today, we have a special guest. He's a University of Texas grad, has played 385 events on the PGA Tour, famously played with Tiger in 1997 when he made that hole-in-one, now a PGA Tour Champions player. Omar Uresti, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rafael.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Omar.
You bet, Mike.
Thanks, Omar. You know, what a crazy weekend. I don't know if you got a chance to watch anything in Kapalua, but Morikawa falling apart like that. Did you get a chance to see any golf?
You know, I probably saw 2 or 3 shots just after I got done playing here at the club at Onion Creek, where I live, and playing practice here in Austin. And but I didn't really watch much of it. I saw a few shots of Scotty Scheffler's and from the day before, and that was about it. I was just kind of going about my own business and, you know, playing with some of the members out here at Onion Creek yesterday.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening and watching, what we're talking about, it's the opening century golf tournaments, all the winners from the previous year, as well as they've included now the top 30 players on the PGA Tour FedEx list, which is new, and it's great. You know, it fills up the field a little bit more. We've got 3 Canadians out there. It was fun to watch, and Morikawa had a bit of a meltdown with a 6-shot lead on the PGA Tour. I do believe that's the largest lead, excluding majors, that a player lost the tournament. So it is a big deal. You could see how dejected he was after the tournament. Mike, any thoughts about that?
That's a relatable crumble for an amateur golfer. Absolutely. You know, golf's a hard game, and John Rahm kept it interesting. I got to admit, I was trying to fight off a nap, and John Rahm kept me going. And as soon as I saw it was over, I curled up on the couch for about an hour and recuperated. But that's golf.
Yeah. Well, Omar, let's start with you. Tell us about yourself. For those who don't know who Omar Uresti is, tell us how your career started and how you got into golf, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, born and raised here in Austin, Texas. My dad used to play a little bit of golf and got me started when I was about 3 or 4. He cut down a 7-iron for me. And we lived just a 1.5 miles or 2 miles from a couple of different places when I was up until I was about 3 or 4. One of them was this one of the older courses in Austin called Lions Municipal Golf Club, or golf course. It's a public course. And then we also had a par 3 course, Butler Pitch and Putt, 9-hole par 3 course. And they've done a couple of deals last year and this year, sponsored by Tito's Vodka, that they had 4 PGA Tour pros come in and do an event to raise money for, I believe it was for maybe to help abandoned dogs, or just dogs in general and stuff like that. But yeah, great. It was, great. It's been a lot of fun from what I've heard people talk about it. But those were my first memories on the golf course, were with my dad and my brothers on those 2 golf courses. And we joined Onion Creek Club here in Austin when I was 6 years old, which we later moved out the following year when I was 7 in 1976, and pretty much have lived out here ever since. But Onion Creek was the host of the Legends of Golf, which was the very first Champions Tour event ever.
Okay.
And in 1978, I believe that we had it for 9 or 10 years, and then it moved on. But that was a great inspiration for me, being able to watch all the old pros. Sam Snead, I got to play with De Vincenzo 1 year in the Pro-Am, got to play with Lionel Hebert in the Pro-Am. But I used to help out on the range, and next thing I knew, Jackie Burke and Chichi Rodriguez are calling me over to hit balls to give me pointers. And, I'd just look over at the chipping green, and Paul Runyon would be over there for 2 or 3 hours just chipping. It was unbelievable. So I got a lot of inspiration and picked up a lot of great things from those guys.
Wow, that's amazing. Chi-Chi's always been one of my favorites. I remember as a kid, and I wasn't quite into golf as I am now, but he was just such a character. I wish we had more guys like that on tour now. It's a little bit robotic with some of these guys and lacking personalities that we used to have in those days. What are you working on right now, Omar? Are you trying to get back into to status and champs tour, and what are you working on in your game?
Yeah, trying to get back out on the Champions Tour or to get out there for the first time, really. I've played a couple of events through Monday qualifiers.
Mm-hmm.
We had Q School the first week of December, and I led after the first day and then got off to a bad start the second day and just couldn't get it any putts to fall after that. So it was very frustrating second and third day. And then the final day, I turned it around a little bit, but just wasn't good enough to earn my card. But I've been working on my swing pretty hard for the last 6-7 months. I had gotten into a real bad habit where I was kind of hanging back and hitting this big old pull slice. And so I've been working on that. And I actually, right after Q School, I took 3 weeks off and came back and started hitting balls and playing a few. And I actually started hitting it straighter and almost with a little draw, which was kind of shocking. I guess the things that I have been working on are starting to pay off a little bit.
Good.
Well, you've got a lot of wins, Omar. I mean, looking back at your career, all the starts I mentioned earlier, with 380 some odd starts. But you played the Canadian Tour as well. So for all our Canadians, you beat our good friend and player Derek Gillespie, I believe, in a playoff at the Barton Creek Challenge back in 2005.
Actually, yeah, it wasn't even a playoff.
It was
the final. No, we got paired together a couple rounds, and I believe I had a decent lead, and he kept getting it close to me. He'd make a couple of birdies, and I'd make a birdie, and so it was got pretty tight there towards the end. But I think I ended up winning by a couple.
That's right.
Man,
that's great. It was a 5-stroke lead.
Yeah. So.
And then we're looking at other wins, Omar. You got the 2015 Southern Texas PGA Championship, which are, famously known for winning the Southern Texas PGA Championship. But in 2021, the PGA Professional Championship, that was incredible. Senior PGA Professional Championship in 2020. There was a little bit of controversy with all that. Tell us about how this came about. Did they actually call it the Uresti rule?
Well, the PGA of America didn't, just the media. I won the PPC in 2017. I had lost my status on the PGA Tour and had actually gotten a little depressed for a couple of years and was trying to find a way to get back into golf tournaments. And I called our section president, Mike Ray, and it's like, Mike, what can I do to play in some of the section events? And he's like, well, you can, change your status to life member because you've been paying your dues for 20 years and you can start playing in our events. And if you fulfill the MSR credits, attend certain meetings and stuff like that, and you can qualify for nationals. And I was like, well, sign me up. That's what I want to do. And that got me, it got me out of my little depression that I had, started, working on it. I'd actually gained about 15, almost 20 pounds during that time. And so I was able to lose that and get back in shape. And I ended up qualifying for the nationals my first time, and I finished third. And then the next year got beat on the last hole by Rich Barbarian. He made about a 40-footer to win. And then the next year I ended up winning it in 2017, and then I won it again in 21. But just some of the guys, because I was a life member of the PGA of America, not actually a working club pro or teaching pro, it rattled a few of the guys, and they were, and unfortunately they were taking it out on me.
That's terrible because, it's sort of like the old boys club. I've worked at, private, semi-private facilities as a club pro, and it's strange, right? The community is really tight, but you legitimately, just to clear the record, you did things by the book. There was no reason for it. And and you still had to win, right? You still had to make the shots, Omar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and there were, I mean, this past year, and I think it was in 2018, I, finished down in the 50s. So, and I actually missed and then this year at the senior club pro, which I can still play the senior division stuff. I just can't play the open age. But, like I said, they took it out on me and that was a bit hurtful at first. And then, I was like, you know what? I was like, some of these guys are just, they've put in the time in the shop, and obviously they have to work way too many hours and don't get paid enough for their job. So they're having to work 60 hours a week, and it's hard if you have a family, it's hard to find time to practice and
That's right.
Maintain a game.
And so I understand where they were coming from, but at the same time, it wasn't my fault. I was going, like you said, I was doing everything by the book. And that's what I did. But they finally got together and they had a vote, and they were able to change the rules on me this year. And on my defense, I think, maybe I could have been, maybe not should have been, but I think I could have been grandfathered in and just have it set for future guys.
Right.
But I mean, because now, I'm still trying, I could now, in order to play in the open age division, I would have to go through all the business school testing and then get a job. And that's just not something I'm ready to do. I'm 54 years old. I can still play halfway decent. And I'm still competitive against some of those younger guys. So, it's just a shame that things have kind of turned out the way they have, and most of the guys out there that know me are, and I'll tell you, I guess you just had a podcast with him last week, Rob Labritz.
Right.
He's told me a couple of times, he's like, Omar, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be out here on the Champions Tour. You
That's
made me
amazing.
have to work harder.
Wow. Yeah.
You made me a better player by being out here, and then I had to work harder. And now look where I am.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Pretty
Great
cool.
story. Thanks for sharing.
And too bad that it feels like you've got the bad end of the stick here, and the media has overblown this as they tend to do these days. So it's a shame that that this rule has changed.
Yes.
What do you think about the live golf entering the scene last year? And it was quite a disruption to the sport in some ways, but are you in favor of this either way, or what are your thoughts on this?
Well, at first I kind of overreacted, but with all the, especially the way the first few guys handled it from the PGA Tour, they did not handle it very classily. And I don't blame them for going. I love the way that Harold Varner handled it. He said, "Hey, I got to do this. This is for my family. It's for my charities. I got to look out for my own, and this is the one way I can do it." At the same time, I'm all about the PGA Tour, but I think there was a little bit of an overreaction there myself on the commissioner side. I believe the PGA Tour gets 6 releases each year to go play in tournaments abroad. And heck, he could have come out and maybe said, okay, you get 6 releases, you can use them all on the live, and that's it. You can't go play anywhere else, and you still have to fulfill your 15 tournaments on the PGA Tour. I think that would have been just fine. But it has now made the PGA Tour, have to find, not find, but pull out some of their money that they've had. They're now doing, I guess, a weekly allotment or whatever, where they're paying guys whether you miss the cut or not. I wish that was around 20 years ago when I got started.
Yeah, 100%. It was quite disruptive, and you're right that some of the guys kind of said they're doing this for the greater of the game and grow the game, when clearly it's a balloon payout. And Harold Varner did handle that very well, and some guys were very cryptic about it. But I agree with you that, and I've always said this over the last X amount of months, that I think Jay Monahan could have handled things a little better. Instead of putting up a stone wall, I think he could have sat at the table with Norman, whether they like each other or not, and they could have come to an agreement that maybe wasn't so disruptive, because it is a shame not to see some of the guys, the Cam Smiths and Dustin Johnson, and some of the regular namesakes that we would see on tour. And a few of the guys are a bit older, Ian Poulter and Graham McDowell. That's a very logical decision to jump over there and make some money, but they may not be missed so much on tour, but some of the young guns will be.
Yeah, the young guns definitely. In my opinion, and from what I've seen, some of the guys, I haven't really kept up with the Live Tour, so I don't know, but it just doesn't seem like the numbers are there like they were. Their scoring just doesn't seem to be as good, quite as good as it was before.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I haven't really kept up with it. That's just kind of what I see every now and then. And yet they haven't performed in the majors, like they were before either. So I think it's hurting them just to be playing the Live. But the Live is coming out with more tournaments, I believe, this next year. So
that's right.
That should help out a little bit. But it's at the same time, it's like, how motivated are they? Because they're already guaranteed the money.
Yeah, it's a factor. It's a factor. And not playing as much. We all know how hard golf is, and you need to be in the ring and feel the pressure and the heat. So you have a better chance at scoring. So we'll see how this unfolds. And the lawsuit is going to kind of waste some time. I think they should just throw all the guys in the room and fight it out until you come up with an agreement, so we can kind of get back and just not segregate our golfers so much, because at the end of the day, let's see the best guys out there and watch them play.
Yeah, and in my opinion, I've never getting to the world ranking aspect of it. I mean, it's only 50 guys playing, and I prefer to see a field of 150 guys where you have more chances of different guys winning. It makes it more exciting, in my opinion.
Yeah,
absolutely. And 72 holes, of course. There's a couple of factors, right? It's more of a marathon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd love to just switch gears just for a few minutes and talk about the Latino community and the influences you've had growing up playing golf. We talked before we went on about Chichi Rodriguez and Lee Trevino. You mentioned De Vincenzo. Tell me about your relationship with those guys and any funny stories or memories you have playing with them.
Well, the funny thing was when, one of my very first idols when I was a kid, being here in Austin, I had Tom Kite and Ben Crenshaw, but on the Hispanic side was Lee Trevino. I read a little 100-page biography book that was made for kids at the time on Lee Trevino, and I just remember some of the stories that I read in it, and just in hearing the stories about him taping up the Dr. Pepper bottle and going out and hitting it one-handed and winning money with that way. So I didn't meet Mr. Trevino until later in my life, after I'd already been on tour for a little while. So that was actually, I think I met him when I was a kid. He came and announced the Legends of Golf a couple of times. So, but being able to play with De Vincenzo was a huge honor. It was in the Pro-Am, and we kept in touch for quite a while. He would even call my dad on occasion, and my mom, just to say hi and stuff, and to just say he was keeping up with my progress and everything. And then with Chi-Chi, the first time I met Chi-Chi, I was 12 years old, and we were at a tournament. They only had 1 year, and it was the Andy Bean World Pro Junior in Innisbrook. And it was at Greenleaf Resort. And I got paired with JC Sneed in the tournament, but playing practice rounds, I guess my dad had met Chi-Chi and talked to him, and we ended up playing a couple of practice rounds with Chi-Chi. And then a couple of, I believe they were his nephews or something. And so that's how I first met him. And then I remember him taking 6 of us from the tournament one day, real early in the morning, to Disney World in a little like 18, 20-foot RV. And we pulled into the parking lot at about 8:30. And he's like, all right, guys, I'll meet you all back here at 3:00. He's like, you guys go have fun. So we went off to the gate, had our time at Disney World. We met him back at the RV at 3:00. He sat in that RV for over 6 hours just so we could go have a good time.
Wow.
And
Great.
just incredible. I'll never forget that. He was so awesome and generous, with us kids. It was incredible.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Very cool. Well, you have a number of people that have supported you over the years. Currently, are you working with any sponsors or you'd like to mention? A good way we like to pay back our guests is for them to bring up who they're working with and who's been supporting them.
Well, as far as, Titleist FootJoy, use Titleist golf equipment and, FootJoy shoes and glove. They've been behind me ever since college. I had one year where I didn't play the equipment, but realized that the other equipment wasn't for me. So I went back and pretty much have been playing, Titleist equipment, and especially the ball, shoe, and glove my whole career. And been playing the irons since 2015, and the woods have been since 2015, but a few times before as well. With their first metal woods that they had come out. And so that's one. Right now we have I've been working with a little company called Talus. They're a little I believe they're a cybersecurity company. It's and then locally here in Austin, we're doing a little kind of golf tour, a hole of the month for this next year. And Callahan's General Store is kind of the sponsor of that. So I've been working with them a little bit, and I've known the Callahan family since we were kids. My brothers went to high school with some. I went to high school with some, and one of the cousins that's now running the company lives out here and is a member at Onion Creek, and so I play golf with him all the time. His name's Charlie Wilson. But so Callahan's General Store has been a local feed store, grass store for the Austin community for many, many years.
Outstanding.
Very cool. You mentioned some par threes and the event with the 4 pros that came out at Onion Creek, and it just makes me think of some of the trends that we're seeing in golf to help grow the game. Like Tiger has that Pop Stroke facility that's got like a putting course and booze, and there's Top Golf. And but do you think these types of facilities are a gift for the game, helping to grow and bring more people in? Or?
Yeah, I think it's definitely helping grow the game. Now people, can go to Top Golf and they can, whack at it a bit and have some fun. And then eventually, I think some of them are starting to maybe join, are definitely joining golf clubs. The one unfortunate thing sometimes is the golf etiquette has been thrown out the window.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's happening. But as far as, COVID was a big help with golf.
Yes.
Just unbelievable how much every club that I know of has grown since with their memberships and just how busy everything is. It's so hard to find a tee time anywhere now.
Yeah, it's same up here in Canada. It is very tough, even a couple of years into COVID. I personally joined a club in 2020 just for this reason. And it's still, people are fighting for tee times. The golf courses in our area are starting to gouge. They have been. Green fees are going up. They're canceling membership tiers. And I suspect that'll hurt them over the next couple of years because it'll, the temperature will cool down a little bit. I'm hoping we retain some of the popularity because the game was shrinking for a little bit pre-COVID. So I think it's I'm hoping we retain some of the players.
Yeah, it was shrinking in the adult world. The kid world, it was really growing. And so I didn't really think golf was hurting all that badly. myself because of that. There were so many kids, and now there's even more kids playing the game. But as far as the adult, yes, I believe it was shrinking in that aspect because people just didn't have the time. And now, a lot of them are able to work from home, and doing a lot more from home. So they have a few extra hours to get out to whack at it.
That's great. Omar, I'm going to bring this up. You're known for a few things. You're known as Oman. I don't know how you got that title, but there's also you got the most amount of birdies in a PGA Tour event. I believe you tied. You talked about Chichi Rodriguez. He was the one previously who had the record. I don't know if the record still stands. Mike, hopefully Mike cues this up, where we're going to talk about your moment with Tiger as well, making that hole-in-one, because you were paired with him on that Saturday. But tell us a little bit about the birdies record.
Yeah, so 1994 was actually the Nike Shreveport Open, what's now the Korn Ferry Tour. And unfortunately, they don't have this tournament anymore because it was actually on a really good golf course. And it was back in the day of Persimmon and Bellata. Mm-hmm. And I believe the course was about close to 7,100 yards, which was, pretty good length back then.
Yeah.
And my brother was caddying for me. He had caddied for me at Q School a couple of times. And this was his first real tournament caddying for me. And, he was a baseball player, but he grew up playing a little bit of golf, but he could putt. If I putted as good as he did, I could have won a few more times I could have won a few times on tour, I think. Because my putting held me back, and now I'm starting to putt really good again. So we'll see. But so he actually, at the time, he was able to line me up with my putts, and we just kind of got started. I missed like a 10-footer on the first hole, an 8-footer on the second hole, and about another 10-footer on the third hole, and then get to the fourth hole. It was a par 3, hit a little 7-iron in there about 15 feet and made it. Next hole was a par 4. I think I hit 8-iron to about 12 feet and made it. Next hole was a par 3. I hit it to about 25 feet and made it.
Wow.
And then I believe we had another par 4, or it might have been a par 5 that I hit it just short and pitched it on to about 6 feet and made it. And then I remember on holes 9 and 10, they were both, I hit 5-irons in there, and I hit them both inside of 3 feet.
Wow.
And made those. And then I hit a wedge to a foot on the 11th hole. And then the final birdie was an 18-footer on number 12. And then I parred the next hole, which was a long par 3, had hit it on the fringe and chipped it to about a foot. And then I birdied the next. So I made 10 out of 11 after making the 9 in a row.
That's amazing. It's funny with golf, you have your best round, but we can always look backwards and be like, oh, damn, I lipped out twice. And, it's like, it can always be a little bit better. But, and I'm going to segue into pulling up this clip here. But, you mentioned the youth has still, been growing in the game. And, I believe it's because of Tiger, and all these kids growing up watching Tiger are now maturing, and, we're in a good place. And this was a great moment in golf. I've just triggered the screen share here. Give it a second to show up.
So I had hit my shot in there, and I was already about 2.5, 3 feet just past the hole and to the right of it. And I did not watch him swing all day, except for a couple of little wedge shots, because I didn't want to get out of my rhythm. So at this time, my back is turned to him with my arms crossed, and I'm looking down at the ground listening. So he hits, I start walking. You can see my shadow, or my brother's shadow up there. And
there it is. But I can see your ball is super close, like you said.
Yeah. But after I hit, I just thought to myself, I didn't say it out loud. I just thought it to myself. I thought, let's see you hit it closer than that. And what's he do? He knocks it in the hole. So, I after it goes in, I just kind of shook my head and said to myself, only Tiger. Turned around and was walking back to do the high five. And I swear I heard my brother say, bro, be careful, and kind of short armed the high five to where we whiffed. And then we were able to go back and hit again where it wasn't such a hard swing. So, but what an incredible moment. It was so loud. The clubhouse was 600 or 700 yards away, and it was so loud that it rattled the windows of the clubhouse.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just it's the whole reason why they have the stadium there. It's the whole reason to be part of history in that shape or form. One of the greatest moments in golf.
And that was the start of the craziness that's now the 16th hole at Phoenix. So just an incredible moment. I wish I had a dollar for every time they shown that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Did you make your putt?
I did make my putt. The funny thing was, so he and my brother are standing on the back of the green, and he puts his arm on my brother's shoulder, and he's like, Hoss. My brother's name is Rusty, but his nickname was Hoss. He's like, Hoss, a total 3 is going to be tough to beat here. Yeah. And he's like, Tiger, he ain't made it yet. He's like, oh, he'll knock it right in the back. And I squirreled it in, and he's like, I told you he'd make it.
Well, that's a great moment. Thanks for sharing that story. One of the things we do on the cast, Omar, is talk about funny and embarrassing golf stories. So when I say those words, funny and embarrassing, what comes to mind? Any notable players or tournaments you could think of?
Well, I had one happen to me. I was we were playing in a Nike Tour event over in Virginia Beach at the TPC there. And I think it was the 11th hole. I'd hit my tee shot left in the trees right next to a hazard, which is just hazard. It was just like grass and woods and stuff. And I was, trying to hit a shot out, and I hit the shot, and there was this tree. It wasn't even as wide as the golf ball, as the diameter of the golf ball. And it hits this tree square and comes back and hits me on my belt buckle. So I got penalized. I think I was was able to make a double and still finish like 3rd for the tournament. But even if it doesn't hit me, it goes in the hazard behind me. So,
right.
But but it did hit me square on the belt buckle right after it hit that tree. And I was like, how can it do that? But let's see, what else is there? I had one. My brother and I, he was caddying for me. We were in Chicago playing at Cog Hill, and we were on, I can't remember what hole it was, one of the par 3s, a little downhill. And I'm trying to go through my routine, and there's a guy about 75 yards up standing below the stands, and he's on his cell phone. And we could hear him, and we're trying to get his attention. We're like, hey, get off the phone, and he's just not hearing us, not paying attention. And so my brother takes an old golf ball that I had used earlier in the round and throws it at him. And it lands like right at his feet. And he looks up, closes his phone, and puts it in his pocket, like all in one quick motion.
Yeah. That's one way to get
so he got the
attention.
Message. Yeah. So he got the message there.
That's awesome.
I tell you, another thing that happened at Phoenix, I can't remember who my brother was caddying for, and I can't remember who hit the shot.
So for those who don't know, Omar, your brother is a professional caddy, and you come from a family of athletes. I believe is he the one who played for the Atlanta Braves?
Yes, he played in the minors for the Atlanta Braves. Yeah, oh, wow. He caught Roger Clemens and Calvin Schiraldi in college at the University of Texas.
Wow.
So he was standing on the 16th green, and I think it was not Steve Jones or somebody. Anyways, one of the pros was leaning on his putter on the green, and the group behind hit up, and it ricocheted off the guy's putter and went in the hole for a hole-in-one.
Oh, wow.
And he turns to the player, and he's like, man, that's the only putt you've made all day.
Right. That's funny.
I can't remember the players, but that's one of the stories.
That's awesome. Another fun question, because you've been out for a few decades on there, so you would have seen different periods of the tour. And in the 80s, 90s, there was a little bit more of a maybe a bit of a party atmosphere. So who would like the wildest players that you remember who would be out drinking the night before, show up? Is there any names that pop out?
Well, I mean, everybody knows Daly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Daly.
Tim Herron liked to go out as well, I hear. And,
it was amazing how many guys would go out and have go eat dinner that I would go eat dinner with, and I'd have one, maybe two drinks. But it'd be amazing to see how many guys would actually have like 6 beers or 7 beers with dinner. I'm just like,
Yeah.
really? It's
Yeah.
like, how can you function the next day?
Right.
But yeah, there were a few guys that like to have a good time. Robert Gomez had a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
Way back when, but John Daly, I think, was probably one of obviously the biggest one that
Right.
always would go out and not only have fun, but go gamble and stay out, pretty late and stuff. So
it just shows how much the game has changed, right? Now we're, the kids are all coming out of university. They've got better games than most seasoned pros after 10 years. And not only is the technology changed, but the mindset, how you get prepared for a tournament, the teams of people. Obviously, money has a lot to do with it and the popularity of the game. But we're not going to see the same type of characters, and because golf wasn't too popular when you were growing up. I'm sure it wasn't, you probably played a little bit of high school and college golf.
Yeah.
It
wasn't a big sport. And it was amazing when I got to college, how many of the UT football players came up to me and said, man, I wish I'd have started playing golf earlier. But, it wasn't the most popular sport. It was thought of as kind of a nerdy sport. But especially with the rise of Tiger, that turned the whole thing around to where it made it look cool and fun. And, so we owe a lot to Tiger. And it's just incredible. And since then, all the young guys that have, had the charisma and stuff, like McElroy and, a few of the other guys, just it's incredible. Justin Thomas, Ricky. And so, the game has changed. The technology changed the game a lot. It took me out of it, actually, because I didn't pick up the distance that a lot of these guys did with the new technology.
Yeah.
And ended up, it's just a totally different game.
It is. It's a absolute power game now with a little bit of finesse thrown in there. Another fun question. Which presidents would you prefer to play with if you could choose? Or have you played with any?
I have not. Teddy Roosevelt, I think, would have been fun to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I have seen a few of the presidents at the Bob Hope. Gerald Ford used to play, so I got to see him hit a couple of shots. I saw Clinton hit a few shots. I have met George Bush. At golf courses, but haven't played with him. I'd like to play with him. I'd like to play with President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I think Trump would. My brother actually caddied in the same group in a pro-am with President Trump. This was like 25, 30 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. And my brother, his daughter wanted to go into modeling, and he was talking to Mr. Trump about it. And he's like, don't let her do it. He's like, tell her not to go, because one day you're too fat, one day you're too skinny, one day you're not tall enough, one day you're too tall, one day your hair's too straight, one day your hair's too curly.
Yeah.
He's like, it's a brutal world. Don't push her into doing it.
Yeah, probably some of his best advice.
Yeah. So, and so just from that and knowing a few other guys that have played with him, I think that it'd be pretty special to play with him.
Yeah, I think it'd be amusing. You have Trump and Clinton, Hillary caddies for Bill, and then you just let them all bicker amongst themselves, and that could be entertaining.
Yeah. Well, I think they were pretty good acquaintances before he ran for president. So
they were
and changed sides.
Yeah, absolutely, they were. I believe they were at Ivanka's wedding or one of their weddings. So no, they were all very tight until 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Omar, I just want to say thank you for coming on the cast. You've had a great career. We want to get interesting people on our casts and talk about their game, because there's not many sports, if any, that where you could have a career 20 plus, 25 plus years on tour. You've made a few dollars. I mean, $4 million plus in change is pretty fantastic. And we just want to celebrate those players that are still grinding, they're still playing, still have passion for the game, still growing it. And just know that, there's a whole community out there still watching you guys and rooting for you. And so hopefully you can get back in as many events as you want to get into. I'm sure you have a 2023 bucket list of things that you'd like to accomplish. And so congrats on an amazing career and moving forward.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I need to get back up to Canada sometime. I haven't been up there in a few years. I've been divorced for 5 years now, and so I haven't really been visited Canada, but I got some good buddies up in the Mississauga area that I would like to go visit at some point again. And they used to be, one of them's Josh Stone, used to be at the Rattlesnake Golf Club, and then the other one is Sean Casey. I believe he might be teaching out at Rattlesnake now, so a little bit, and as well as I've just gone blank on names because it's been so long.
That's all right. Hey,
that's all right.
If you do end up coming out here, I'm not far away. We'll get around it. We'll be able to get out there, whether it's out in Texas on tour. We're planning to come out to some events as well. So Mike and I look forward to teaming up with you. We got our new merch line coming out. We'll send you some stuff as well.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah, that'd be
Thank
great.
you very much for having me.
No, you're welcome. And again, thank you for me as well. And to our listeners and viewers, please give us a subscribe or engage with the content. Tomorrow we'll be out on all the podcast platforms for your audio. Thanks again for listening. And Omar, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, for Michael Bleackley, I'm Rafael Kalamat. For Omar Uresti,